world where achievements and accolades motivate us to do more and be more, we're often left wondering, is this really it?
Deep inside, you know there is more to life. You're ready to leave behind the old, push your way through, and claim the deeper life that's calling you.
That's where we excel.
We're your hosts, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Oslak.
And this is the Soulful Leader Podcast.
Sit back and relax as we share the shortcuts we've uncovered to help you make shift happen. Welcome back to the Soulful Leader Podcast. My name is Maren and I'm here with Stephanie. And we're super excited to be moving forward in this 2023 year of ours. One of the things that we just recently did was we looked back over 2022 and we saw which of our podcasts resonated best with you, our audience. And one of them stood out like way above all of the others. And it was episode 45, Giving as a Success Practice. And I know for myself, it is most certainly one of my favorite exercises is to give as a success practice. And we have actually a couple of podcasts along those lines talking about it from the perspective of leadership and why that's important. So you all may want to go back and listen to that episode 45, Giving as a Success Practice. And then we also have an episode number, I think it's 72, which is along the same lines. And I think more specifically from a leadership perspective. Was there anything you wanted to share about
I think
those?
That number 72, isn't it living a congruent life?
No, that was the one with Connie that was actually our number 2 podcast this year. And that was where we had Connie on, and she talked about, she's a beautiful Sufi soul. And that was episode number 38.
Yeah, I'm looking at how linking these together and what is presencing coming up for this 2023 year. There's a lot of has changed in my outer world because a lot has changed in my inner world. And when I'm looking at giving as a success practice or giving as a way of being in a leadership role, it has occurred to me in my life, I have practiced giving as a people pleaser. And I think in one of the episodes, I even talked about being a professional rescuer and how I was retiring from that. And I know there was a few of my clients that kind of got a little panicked about that, going, hey, what do you mean you're not going to be doing this anymore? And I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. It's how I'm going to be doing it. And that part is not about the outer. Of course, the outer will change, but it's more the internal, about being congruent and looking at, sometimes we give to get, or sometimes, and I don't mean get in a way of receiving back in the way of monetary or accolades, but we just feel better about ourselves. And what if we could let all that go? What I often say about the inhale and the exhale, and I do this all the time with my clients. So I know any of my clients that are listening right now, you already know the answer. But if I said, if which is better, to inhale or to exhale, which is more valuable to you? And so often people will stop and think. And it was so funny because I had a mental health professional working with me yesterday, who's an amazing woman who's been doing this kind of practice, mindfulness and meditation and yoga for like decades. And I said to her, so which one is better, to inhale or exhale? And she paused and like, I can't believe you just paused. And she started to laugh. She's like, I know I paused. She goes, is that a trick question? I said, yeah. I said, but you pause. And I said, I'm laughing because I have done the same. And why
I have too, because I know, I remember when I first heard you ask that question, I thought,
we go into judgment.
Is better?
We go into judgment and we go, my gosh, is one better than the other? Let me think about this. And oh, well, it feels better to exhale. Oh no, but it feels really good to inhale. I'm like, it's a trick question. And why I say that is that we are so in a polarity binary world that we need to transcend right now. And to make that relationship, is the inhale better than the exhale or the exhale better than the inhale? Neither are true. We need both. And whether the masculine or the feminine is better, we need both. Whether to work or to rest, we need both. Like it's
Mm.
like this whole idea of the work-life balance, and that's why I'm coming back to the giving as a success practice. It's like, yeah, it's great to give, but where are you giving it from? Is it giving it from a place of um, it's yours to give, like it just happens natural, and you have nothing, you can completely detach from the outcome? Like if you gave, it's like, we've just come through the holidays. If you gave someone a present and they didn't receive it very well, or they didn't, they wanted to give it back, or they felt ashamed that you gave it to them and they didn't have anything to give you back, or, we make all these crazy assumptions about what that means instead of just giving to give. Like if you never knew if they said thank you, or if you never knew if they ever used it or appreciated it, would you still give it? And that's what I'm saying about the congruent life of, oh my gosh. And I'm not saying that we have to be perfect in our leadership role. I've been going through this, the drama triangle. It's where I'm getting the giving from as the professional rescuer, as I'm retiring that role. And I want to move more into a higher realm of leadership, of being loved, and loving. Like, I want that essence, that I'm swimming in that ocean, not in the top pool of my inner teenager that just loves epic drama. And I would laugh because I've been, working through hot flashes for probably the last 5 years, really. And I realize that when I'm not paying attention to my inner life, my inner teenager lights matches and I have a hot flash.
All right,
So
so I'm
yeah,
gonna.
unpack that.
You're on a roll. You're
I'm on a
on a
roll.
roll, and we need to go back about 4 steps first.
Okay, go for it.
So you were talking about leaders and giving to give and a congruent life, and I just wanted to bring those three together
Yeah.
because as leaders, I think oftentimes we are in a position where we feel like we have to give. And so now it's no longer giving because I want to or because I have it to give. Sometimes we're giving from a place of I have to give, and I actually don't have it to give, and I have to give it anyway. And I
Mm,
think that that takes us to the living a congruent life piece, and that's at least where they're connected in my mind of how do I find that. I think oftentimes we confuse that, and you also mentioned work-life balance. We confuse the, oh, if I could just find work-life balance, then I would have something to give when I needed to give it. And truly, that's actually not the case. You might have a little more energy, or you might find a little more peace. And the answer really is the internal that you were just talking about. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that piece of like kind of that whole piece of the puzzle that you were just talking about of what's the value for a leader to even start to look at the inner game. And there's a great book that I read many years ago. I think it was called The Inner Game of Business. I'll have to look that up because I don't remember the exact title. um, and it's really about what does it take for me to be congruent with myself in my role as a leader so that I don't get burned out, so that I do have something to give, so that I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the right place with the right people doing the right thing.
So this is an interesting intake of that, of like looking at the drama triangle. So when we say forgiving,
Can
let me
you
just
can you
explain the
tell,
drama.
right,
Yeah,
thank you. Tell
that's what
the
I wanted to
audience.
do. So when you think of a drama triangle, excuse me, when you think of a drama triangle, you're thinking of literally a rescuer. You need to have a rescuer. You need to have and a rescuer needs to have a victim that you need, that so they can rescue somebody. And the victim also needs to have a violator, someone who created a violation so that they can feel like a victim. So it's these three in every Hollywood movie, pretty much, is based on that whole scenario. You've got the villain who has violated somebody, and that violator, that person who has been violated, needs to have someone who rescues them, whether it's in love or law or whatever. And it's exhausting. And so why I'm saying this is important, as leaders, we get put in the rescuer role. And we also get put into the violator role. And then when we get put in those roles and they're not working for us, then we as leaders become the victim.
Mm.
So it's a lot of life force and a lot of energy. And you're like, oh my God, how do I get off the merry-go-round? Because this is really exhausting. And so any of you that are listening out there and say, oh, I just wish I had more work-life balance. I can tell you right now, you're in that drama triangle. If that's how you're feeling, because if you go to work and you're like, oh, but work is so demanding and I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to please my boss or I have to please my customers or I have to please my staff, you're in that victim violator rescuer program. Then you come home and you unload on your partner or your kids or whatever happens, your cats, your dogs, whatever happens to be there, and they're not listening because they are now feeling violated by your stress. And you're like, gosh, I don't want to bring that home, but I need to talk about it. And sometimes work life is really crazy too. And you're like, I just need to get back to work so I can get away from my life. Again, note to self, you just got a red flag flagging here saying you are in the merry-go-round, the drama triangle. So how the hell do you get off, right? How do you get
Right.
off? What happens? Where do you go? And that's what we're talking about, the inner life. So
Absolutely.
to go inside and like inside each and every one of us, first we have to look at, okay, so what am I believing that put me there? Because there's an agreement that you will say, okay, there's a belief that I have to be violated in order to then. So let's use anxiety. Anxiety is a really key one. A lot of people experience anxiety these days. How does anxiety serve you? So if I said, Marin, when you get anxious, when you get afraid, when you get stressed about something, what does that give you permission to do?
Most often, it gives me permission to take a step back and rest.
It gives you permission to take a step back and rest, to stop, to slow down.
So it serves me in that way.
That's right. And if you don't give yourself that permission to stop and slow down and rest, what will it then, what will the stress then create?
Well, it'll create illness of some sort.
Mhm.
Whether it's I throw my back out or I stub my toe or I get a cold or something along those lines so that I have to stop and slow down.
It forces you. And we're looking at this on the physical level. I can tell on my own personal life, it also happens on an emotional level too. All of a sudden, the relationships in my life aren't working, and perhaps a breakup or a staff person leaves or things happen, it blows up and it breaks my heart,
Mm.
which also gives me permission to stop and slow down and look within. And again, we're not saying we need to go the blame shame game here, because that's, again, if you catch yourself saying, oh, it's all my fault, I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda, ought to, guess what? You're in the victim, violator, rescuer triangle again. You just jumped yourself right back on the wagon.
So one of the other things that it gives me permission to do is like when I am when I am in an anxious mode, I feel like I now have permission to be less thoughtful around other people because, oh, I'm stressed. I'm stressed. I couldn't think about you. And I
Yeah.
always apologize for it later. That my poor husband goes through this with me all the time. And I do try and catch it. And oftentimes the more attention I bring to it, the more often I'm catching it. And it still happens. Just the other day, I had COVID. And so poor me, I got to lay down and take care of myself. And he did something and I took his head off because I had permission, because I was sick, because I was anxious, because I was stressed. I was in my shit. So I had permission to treat him like crap, which is not true. And
So
I
so
was
you
in the
became the violent.
triangle.
Yeah, you became the
Right?
violator. You were
Right.
feeling victimized and then became the violator. And he wasn't rescuing. He wasn't playing his role, dang it.
Exactly. He does that really well. And it helps me because then it's the mirror is like, oh, he's not playing along. I have to apologize.
And this is such great insight, Marin, of like when you can catch yourself in it, because this is where we end up, like I said, whether it's in our relationships at home life or at work, or in our lives. It's like if we get caught in these triangles, then how do you get off the bus? Like, how do you get off the freaking merry-go-round that you're
Right.
on? And it's like, well, what are the other options? What else can we do? And that's where we go into the internal. And, coming back to the hot flashes, what I realize is that if you think of an angry teenager, I don't want to, you can't make me, screw off, get away, leave me alone. Or sometimes the teenager goes to the opposite extreme of quiet quitting or resignation, which you're seeing a
Mm.
lot in this world of quiet quitting or quiet resignation with relationships, with jobs, with careers, like completely changing vocations, moving to different cities. We've seen this, and that
My teenager
it
tends to go there.
right, and we tend to default in one or the other. We either run away, this is the fight or flight or freeze mechanism, right? We either run away from what's making us feel uncomfortable, or we fight, we violate it, we go into the violator, or we freeze, we haven't got a freaking clue what to do, and we just go, I don't know what to do, and we're immobilized. So when I say this, it's like, well, what are the other options? And so I'm looking at my inner teenager, because that's the part of me that is literally, I've discovered, is creating the hot flashes, is that when she's upset, when she's afraid, when she's irritated, she gets my attention by creating a hot flash. And so I can be either shameful and go, oh God, I'm in the middle of a meeting and I'm having a hot flash, and this is really uncomfortable and I'm really vulnerable. Or I can say, she has a need. She has a need. She's not trying to beat me up or hate. She has a need and I'm ignoring her. What is she needing? And it's like any parent with a teenager, you cannot say to a teenager, that's it, go to your room. I don't want to, you're grounded. It's like, good luck with a 17-year-old. Good luck. Good luck. Because they've got a lot of life force. And that's what's great about a teenager. They got a lot of life force. They got a lot of willpower. So if you want to make a change in your life, you want to evoke the teenager.
Yeah, harness
But
that energy.
harness that energy. You want to talk, you want more money, you want more health, more love, more joy, more passion, more freedom. Harness the teenager. But it's how we harness it. It's like the teenager does not get to drive drunk at all. Like you take away the keys. There's some boundaries you got to put in place. But at the same time, there's some great wisdom. If you talk to any teenager will believe that they can change the world. And you know what? They can, and they will. And so the teenagers in all of us. So here's one of the things that I do as a practice is like what Maren said, she slows down, she stops, and I actually drop in and I listen, and I
Mm.
presence the voice or what I looked like at 15, 16, 17. And I care about her. I absolutely love her. I
So
don't
you
shame her.
literally parent her in a
I
loving
parent.
way.
Absolutely. Like if I was her loving, most loving best friend, parent, partner, whatever it is, something that's loving to you. If I was so endearing to her and I'd say, "Oh my gosh, I know you're really upset. Tell me what's going on. What's missing?" Like when we talk about how can we give from a place of emptiness? Well, we need to fill our own tank. How do we fill our own tank? We go inside and we talk to the parts that are empty. And we go, what are you needing? What can I give you right now? And it's not trying to shame them and say, go to your room. That's it. I've had enough of you. You know, you don't get to do this. It's none of that. It's like, what do you want? This is what I have to say to my teenager. What are you needing from me that I'm not giving you right now? And automatically that part in myself goes, oh, Jesus. Well, you know what I'm really needing? This is what she'll say to me. What I'm really needing is like, can we just like pet the cat? I just want to like relax for a minute. We're always on the go. Can you just be with me? I'm really troubled. I don't feel like I belong right now. And I feel like you've abandoned me. And I really have some great ideas. Can you be with me? It's amazing the insight and the awareness and how much the instantaneous, how the hot flash stops.
For me, I do it a little differently. I haven't worked with my inner teen and or child. I do stop and I drop in. And if anyone has done any of or has heard of Joe Dispenza, I tend to be a very analytical person or have tended to be. And one of the things that I learned, gosh, in the early mm, to late to anyway, around 2013, 2014, when I started doing his work, was that there's more I am more than my analytical mind, which I didn't actually understand that. I thought that this our culture teaches us to kind of worship the conscious analytical mind. And when I realized that there was something more, it's imagine you're in a dark room with a flashlight. That's the conscious mind. It's what you can see. Well, there's the whole rest of the room. So how do you turn on the lights for the entire rest of the room? And that's what I've been working with, is how do I turn on the lights for the whole rest of the room? And that's the same thing that Stephanie is doing and talking about, like the inner, all of our inner beings, and you can give them names of inner child, inner, and there's archetypes for each of those. So it's very powerful to work with them the way that Stephanie is doing. And it's essentially turning on the light in the rest of the room. And I do a similar thing in that I drop into beyond that barrier of analytical mind into the subconscious and into even further the ground of being. And I sit there in that emptiness. And that helps me to ideally
So
our
hold on here, because there's
yep.
a lot there that you're talking about, like
Okay.
unconsciousness and the ground of being and sitting in the emptiness. Like, it's rich. It's so rich, Marin. And so tell me more about what it means to sit in the emptiness, because I think this is a real key. Because we're so because I'm hearing like you can't figure it out there. Like, that's the non-figuring it out mind, right? In the
Mhm.
emptiness. Can you say more about what that means and why that's important?
As we drop out of the conscious mind, we go into several sub levels of subconscious mind into a collective unconscious. And
So it's kind of like what we don't know that we don't know.
it's very much so. And to go back to an analogy of the dark room, as you get towards the end of the flashlight beam, so you've got the flashlight in the dark room, at the very closest to the flashlight, the edge of the light is very sharp. There's a clear distinction between what's light and what's not light, right? Over here, there's light. On the other side, it's dark. And as you get further away from the flashlight, further into the dark room, that darkness gets muddied. Like, where is the edge between the light and the dark? And that's really what happens in our subconscious as we start to go into that darkness. And I call it darkness. It's not evil or bad or anything else. It just is terms for explaining it, right? So we go into the darkness, and as our eyes adjust in the darkness, that light, darkness, it starts to blend. There isn't that clear, crisp delineation between the two, and then you get into total darkness, and that is that collective unconscious that we can't figure it out because we don't have sight there, you know?
And we're so conditioned that we are supposed to have the answers. We've talked about that in some of our podcasts, that we're supposed to figure it out. We're supposed to have all the answers. And then if we don't, we have shame and blame and guilt. And we get into that triangle again,
Mm.
because we blame the systems, we blame the medical, the political, the school, whatever, our partners, our whatever. And so this is key, isn't it? And so what you're saying is to actually sit in the unknown, to sit in
Yes.
the emptiness without fixing it, changing it, or judging it, or just being
Being
absolutely
present to it.
present, practicing
Our
being present to it.
Yeah. So our coach, Daniel Goodenough, he talks about fourth level sensing. And I'm bringing that up not as one more term to throw at you. And that's really what I do in that place is I want to call it listening, and yet it's listening with all of my senses. So I might be feeling something, I might be seeing something, I might be hearing something, I might be tasting something, I might be smelling something, or it might be none of those, right? I'm present. And it allows me dropping out of whatever craziness is going on in the conscious, in the outer world, and then moving past the craziness that goes on inside my conscious mind, the inner world. And we have lovingly dubbed it the itty bitty shitty committee, who
Right,
wants
right.
me to like, it just wants to either tell me how bad I am, tell me how wrong I am, tell me what I should be doing, go off on some tangent. It wants to just like take the car and drive it someplace off of a cliff, right? And I want to get past that too. I don't want to get caught in that. That's where the conscious mind. So I want to drop past that and go past all of the cha 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 cha, right? And so, and then I want to be present.
And I want to clarify something here too, because what I worked when I work with clients, a lot of times they'll think, oh, I'm being present and I'm disassociating from those sensories. But what's
Mm.
happening is that they've left their body, like they are in another realm. And so that it's different, like presencing and being um, in the emptiness, in the unknown, is also being the observer of the body. So you're not, and you're observing how you are responding or reacting. You're observing how you're holding your body. You're observing your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts. You're observing all of it. So it's not like you're figuring it out, but it's also like you're not on vacation down in Florida somewhere either. Like you haven't left your body. Like, and I see this. I know when someone leaves their body. And it's like
Yeah.
you've got to be in your body in order to do this. You can't be in a trance. You can't be on a holiday somewhere else, because we are like, we are energy. We are so much more than our physical body.
Mm.
And so we have so much life force, but yet we use such little of it because we keep defaulting to the old habits.
And that's the thing, is I connect into my ground of being, which is my energy. Like that's my life force. I connect back to my life force without all of the crap, without all the stories that are attached to it, without all of the coulda, woulda, shouldas that are attached to it. There are no attachments at the ground of being. It just is presence. And that's what allows me to disentangle myself. And then from there, I can make a decision or choose not to. And choosing not to make a decision is still a decision. So, like, it just
Yeah.
is, I can move forward from that place and it's a much cleaner place. And then, it's like when I can do that in the moment, and that's been years and years of training. And there's still a lot of moments where I can't do it. Like I just said, I just took my husband's head off, and obviously I wasn't able to do it. And I want to reiterate it. It's so important to not get engaged in the blame and shame game at that point. It's a journey for me. So as I progress, other things that I haven't mastered yet will show up for me so that I get to address that next too. And if you can turn it into a joyful game of
Mhm.
like, ooh, where's it coming next, right? Then you can get out of that blame and shame.
And what's something that helps me get out of the blame and shame is the question. And here's the questions that I will ask myself. If I truly loved myself right now, what would I say, think, be, or do?
I love those
And
questions.
that transcends the blame and shame, and it transcends the victim, the violator, and the rescuer. But that I not only do I ask it of myself, like if I loved myself right now, what would I be, do, say, or feel? But I also say, if I loved this person or this thing or this place that I'm in relationship with right now, if I truly loved that, how would I think, be, do, or say, or experience? So I ask it both of myself and also what I'm a part of, so that I can get out of that drama triangle, get out of the blame, shame game, get out of the itty bitty shitty committee, because that part will just say, oh my God, why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? And I'm like, wait a minute, is that really loving? That voice, is that really loving? Because that's if I don't address that voice inside, that is exactly how I will treat myself ongoingly. And it's also how I will unconsciously and consciously treat those outside of me. And that's not who I want to be.
Hmm.
So it's the transcending of the people pleaser, it's transcending of the codependent, it's transcending of the rescuer, but it's coming through a place of inner love.
So one of the things, there are two things that I want to say about that. One of them is that there are multiple roads to Rome. So there is no one road to transcending the triangle that you talked about
Exactly.
earlier, right? And the other thing I want to say about that, the second thing, is that you can't change your consciousness from the same level that created it.
Right.
So you do have to do some sort of an inner work in order to make that happen. And there
And
are
to allow
many,
yourself to be in the unknown because you cannot change it from the known. That's your
yeah.
past. You have to step outside of that comfort zone and be in the unknown. So a lot of us go back and default to old ways of being because it's easier, old
And you
habits, old
can't change
relationships.
it.
Yeah.
Like you
And you can't
said, you
change it
can't
from
change
there.
it so there has to be some new level of consciousness that helps you. And the good news is that there's, like I said, multiple roads to Rome along those paths. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring up that Stephanie and I approach it from different perspectives. And we have it's to get to the same result, which is up leveling our own consciousness and getting out of those places where we get trapped in our lives and we feel trapped and we get into stress and we get into anxiousness. And how can we have a more loving, joyful, abundant life? And we all want that.
Mhm. Rumi said, beyond right doing and wrong doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. And that was 700 plus years ago. And what Rumi speaks to is releasing the binary, releasing the polarities of different things of right, wrong, good, bad, up, down, left, right, correct, incorrect, moral, unethical, all those things, and saying, well, where do we meet? Where is the loving place where we can have a ground of being and connect? And that's not only outside of us. Of course, that would be great. But if we will not be able to make that happen outside ourselves with our relations in our world if we aren't doing it within.
And so that brings me full circle back to our top three podcasts that resonated with you, our listeners. And the third one is our first podcast from last year, 2022, which was called Leadership in 2022. And the reason it brings me, I feel like it's full circle is leadership in 2023 is different than it was last year. And it will continue to evolve. And as leaders, I feel like our role is really the inner journey. It's self awareness and committing to that so that we can get to that place where it's a place beyond right doing and wrong doing, where we all get to meet. And it's not just our responsibility to do that as leaders in this culture at this time on this planet, it's also our right
Mm.
to do that.
And when we do, we become the remedy for the malady in the world.
Yeah.
And it's so possible. And that's like what Carl Jung said, will humanity ever make it if they do their inner work? And what an opportunity as a leader. And like I said, our definition of leader, you can be a leader as a parent, as a teacher, you can be a leader of your own inner world. We are all leaders. We all have that archetype. And as we start to embrace with it more love, more kindness, more inner practices, we change the outer world. And that's what we're here for.
Thank you all for listening. As a reminder, There will be links to all of the things that we talked about in our show notes. It's a very rich conversation today, and we would love to hear your comments and thoughts. And even if you're interested in hearing us talk about a specific subject, let us know. You can do that on Facebook or in LinkedIn, on LinkedIn at The Soulful Leaders. And we look forward to seeing you next week. You can also find us on our website, thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening.
And that wraps up another episode of the Soulful Leader Podcast with your hosts, Stephanie Allen
and Maren Oslac. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to dive deeper, head over to our website at thesoulfulleaderpodcast.com.
Until next time.